Okay, aloha mai kako. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another um, East-West Center Research Program speaker series. Carolyn, Catherine, can I get a confirmation that we can start? Are we recording? Are we going? Okay. Given that we're recording, I'm going to start that again. Aloha mai kako. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the East-West Center Research Program speaker series. I'm really delighted to welcome Miku back to our speaker series. It's always a really important conversation on issues of sustainability, environment, change, intergenerational issues, challenges with hazards, disasters, and things like that. And I especially appreciate the format that we're going to be doing today. In the spirit of the East-West Center, we'll be working in multiple languages between East and West, and that's very exciting for me. So I don't want to be up here too long. I want to quickly give an introduction to the speakers. Today's talk is entitled Looking to the Oceans, Coastal Communities, Livelihoods, and Climate Leadership. We have two really exciting speakers here today. The first is Futoshi Aizawa. He's the director at the Aizawa Fishery and Advisory at Odyssey Nature Japan. He's a third generation seaweed nori fisherman and has been working in the fishery industry for over 25 years in his hometown, Higashi Matsushima City, Miyagi Prefecture. His seaweed has been presented to the imperial family twice after winning a national competition at the youngest age for its quality. As a fisherman who has dedicated his life to the ocean, he has always had a passion for marine education and ocean conservation. He has presented in many conferences and workshops domestically and abroad, sharing his wealth of experience as a fisherman in Japan, and we are delighted to have him with us today. Our other co-presenter today is Miku Narisawa, is a co-director at Odyssey Nature Japan, a nature-based program in her hometown in Miyagi Prefecture, and she's currently a doctoral student at the Graduate School of Environmental Studies at Tohoku University, focusing on marine environmental anthropology and environmental ethics of coastal resource management. She has a lot of experience in history here in Hawaii. She received her MA in Peace and Environment from Meiji University and a BA in Peace and Conflict Resolution from the University of Hawaii at Manoa here in Honolulu. She also has worked on international peace education projects at the Pearl Harbor National Memorial and has been involved in nature and global education programs through the Lokahi Foundation in Honolulu, Hawaii. So as you can see, we have people who are steeped in knowledge and understanding and experiences on very real issues, pressing matters, things we really want to learn about in terms of the future for sustainability, environment development, and climate change. And we are so proud to be able to feature this presentation today. The format will be about a 40-minute presentation followed by Q&A. I want everybody in the room to know that that red button in front of you is your magic button to be able to participate. So it'd be great if people could come and sit at the front of the table here so that we can have a great discussion about fisheries and environment in Japan. Miku and Futoshi, I want to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Micah, for the introductions. I'll set up the slide right now. You guys all see it now? Okay, great. Again, thank you everyone for coming today, and thank you for East-West Center for having this opportunity for us. And then today, the topic, as Micah introduced, look into the oceans, coastal communities, livelihood, and climate leadership. So we have 4 agenda in our presentations. So first is a seaweed cultivations and a Japanese fishery system in Japan, ocean climate and ocean climate leadership. And as we conclude, we want to have a discussions on what do we see in our future in terms of the environment and also environmental ethic. So a little bit of background, an introduction. So today we have a special guest from Japan. So he's Futoshi Aizawa. As Micah introduced, he's a third generations of nori seaweed farmers and fishermen in Japan. He's so as Micah introduced, but I'm currently a doctoral student at Tohoku University, and my research focuses on the marine environmental anthropology, and I'm researching his philosophical approach to the oceans, and he has really unique perspective. And when he look at the oceans, he immediately see the interrelations between mountain and oceans. So he's gonna talk about that today. But that's part of my research, and so he won twice at the national competition for seaweed, where they compete the quality of seaweed. So not only he has a great skills to cultivate a seaweeds, but also he's working with a lot of academia fields, working with the researchers, community members, to spread the his perspective as a fisherman. So a little background of where we came from. So we are born and raised in Higashimatsushima City, which is the northern part of Japan called Tohoku regions. As many of you know, our city was affected by the Great East Japan earthquake back in 2011. So including himself, Futoshi too, we lost a lot of houses, and also our main industry is agriculture and the fishery industry, so that was also greatly affected too. And then we faced the Pacific Oceans, so of course, you know, we do vegetations, rice planting, rice field, and also the oyster, seaweed, and fishery too. So I would like to pass on to Futoshi right now. He's gonna talk about the fishery and the seaweed cultivation in Japan from the perspective of this fishermen. Sorry, before I pass on to that, so just a bit of a background of the Japanese fishery system. So this is the major fishery system. We have three types. So one is the pelagic fishing. So that is the fishing using large vessels to catch the fish. And the fishermen go into the large boat and they go to fishing over a month, like 2 months and 3 months. And then also the offshore fishing, that's where the vessel is a little bit smaller, but they go to the fishing for like 2 and 3 days. And then it's a troll method. And then other thing is the coastal fishing. So it's more family and community oriented way of fishing. So when you have a coastal community and you have a designated fishing district in front of your area, so that's more the coastal community fishing. In Japan, we have three types, but I think the U.S. in mainland, it's mainly focuses on the top two fishing method. And a lot of communities and island nations in the Pacific Oceans and island nation, including Japan, we heavily focus on the coastal fishing. And the nori cultivations is also considered as the coastal fishing. And not only the fishing to catch the fish, but we also have the different types of fishing, which is a cultivation, in other words, agriculture. So that we have a seaweed cultivation, oyster cultivations, and other different types of shellfish aquaculture. Okay, so I'll pass on to Futoshi from now. 3つの漁業について。
はい、改めまして、こんな素晴らしい場に、話す機会をいただいて本当にありがとうございます。
Okay, so I'll do the translator. So thank you for coming today, and I really appreciate for this wonderful opportunity at East West Center.
はい、では、日本のその漁業の、大まかなちょっと説明をしたいと思うんですけども、今皆さんが見ているのは日本列島です。
So on this map, you can see the Japan, right? The islands.
で、地図に映っている下の方、沖縄のあたりから、流れている海流っていうのが黒潮っていう海流が流れてます。
So Japan has a two currents. So one is Oyashio, Kuroshio, coming down from Philippines and the Okinawa area. You can kind of see on this map, it's a white colored current.
で、地図の上の方、ロシア大陸の方から南下してくるのが親潮って言います。
And then the other current is coming down from Russia. It's called Oyashio. So much colder current.
で、太平洋に面している、日本のエリアでいうと、この2つの海流が大きな影響を日本にとって与えています。
So that those two currents bring a large impact on the Japanese coastal areas and Japanese Japan Sea and also the Pacific Oceans.
で、実はですね、こんな、漁業が盛んな日本っていう中で、その西日本、南日本、下側のエリアですね、そこでも魚がものすごい取れます。黒潮の海域なんですけど。
So on the map, you can see the southern area of Japan. So like Kyushu, Shikoku area, they get kuroshio, which is a warmer current, with a less nutrient compared to the oyashio, but they still have a large amount of fish to catch.
で、実はこの黒潮にはですね、栄養がないんですね。
So the kuroshio that what we just look at right now, so they don't have it doesn't contain a lot of nutrients.
有機物が少ないから透明なんです。
So, you know, the southern part, like Okinawa, let's say, it's the water is much clearer, right? So why is that? That means that it doesn't really carry the organic elements and the organic components. That's one of the reasons the water is much clear.
で、そうやってその有機物がないっていうことは、魚の餌だったり、そういうものがないんですけども、なぜ日本列島周辺で魚がたくさん取れるかっていうと、大地の影響、大地の恵みっていうのがすごく深く関わっています。
So the kuroshio, which is the warmer current, so in that area, they used to catch a fish. So why, what is the reasons that there's still fish in the marine ecosystem around the southern part of Japan? Because, organic components, the fish and the little, microorganism that also contains a lot of plankton nutrients, the fish and the little fish, they need that components in order to feed themselves, grow more, and then also that creates a lot of ecosystem. And the reason why the southern part of Japan, they still get rich, the coastal resources is the main reason is the nutrients coming down from the mountain in Japan.
日本の国土の7割がね、森なんですね。
So 70% of Japan and land itself consists of the 70% of the Japan's land is the forest.
雨が降って大地から窒素リン、カリウムだったり、そういう栄養成分が海に流れ出て食物連鎖が始まっています。
So what happened is that when it's rain, that it also brings down a lot of potassium and also the nitrogen and other important elements for the aquaculture through the river.
ちょっとこれからですね、まず日本の海っていうのはそういう海で、豊かな海っていうのは山からのエネルギーがとても複雑に絡み合って豊かな海を形成しているっていうことをまず皆さんにお伝えしておきます。
So the first thing that I want to point out is that there's a complex relations between the ocean and the mountain, and all the forests, the trees, the plants, everything is interconnected. That also bring a lot of nutrient down to the oceans.
Right.
So that's also creates the formation of the Pacific Ocean and also Japan Sea.
で、簡単にですね、僕がやってるその海苔養殖っていうのを少し説明したいと思います。
So he's gonna talk about the seaweed cultivation.
もう次行こうか。 はい、日本の海苔養殖はですね、主にこう、産地っていう取れる場所があってですね、1、2、3、4、5エリアかな。大まかなエリアがここで、僕はこの上の方のエリアでやってるんですけども、やはりこの川がたくさんあるエリア、さっき言ったように山からの栄養供給がたくさん豊富なエリアで海苔養殖っていうのがやられております。
So on this map shows the major nori cultivation site in Japan. So first we have Matsushima Bay, Tokyo Bay, Ise Bay, Setsunai Bay, and Ariake Bay. That's like a major thing, and the Matsushima Bay is where Futoshi cultivate a seaweed.
はい、海苔の生産方法なんですけども、まず本当にね、この皆さんびっくりするんですけども、まず顕微鏡を使ってですね、海苔の胞子っていうのを海苔の網につけるんですね。
So the first step as a seaweed farmers is the seeding process. So he used a microscope to collect the spores and the seeds, and then they do the seeding process.
だからそのの海苔の胞子をつけるところから始まって生産までやってるのが、まあ、海苔の漁師です。飛ばしていいです。まあ、約胞子をつけて1ヶ月程度で収穫できるくらいの長さになります。
So after the seeding process, it takes a month, 1 month for the harvesting.
で、生産期には朝、船で海苔を積みに行って、お昼くらいには海苔がですね、乾いて出てきてます。
So in the harvesting seasons, he go to the harvesting seaweed in the early morning, like 6 or 5, and then he brings out to his factory in order to process the seaweed that they cultivate, removing all the other shrimps and stuff like that. And then on the fifth pictures on the bottom, so that's the actual product that he make. So the seaweed itself dried out in a couple of hours. So he goes to the harvesting in the morning and he gets the product around noon on that day.
で、水温は23度以下になります。
So the water temperatures for the seaweed cultivation, specifically this type of the seaweed, it's have to be below the 23rd Celsius degrees.
日本では秋から冬をまたいで春までの生産時期となっております。
So that seaweed harvesting seasons is around the fall to winter and spring.
だから実はその4月10日まで生産して急いで今来てますって。
So he just finished the harvesting in April 10th, and then he, get the cleanup done, stuff like that on the oceans, get an anchor out, stuff like that. And then he came to Hawaii.
まあ、ここまでは生産で次。この数字説明して。
Okay, so on these numbers, so I want you to guess what this number represent. So let's go from the top. So the year of 2000, something was around 7,000, close to 8,000. And then it decreased to 2,000 at the year of 2024. So that we are talking about within the seaweeds cultivations. So can you guess what this number represent for? Producer の漁師の数。
お正解です。
Yeah, so that's the number of producers.
この下は
How about the bottom one? So a year of 1998, we had 10 billion. And then the year of 2024, we have 4.5 billions. Production says something. Yeah, so that's a production. So it's a per seat. So you on the picture, you saw the sheets, right? So that's how they count the seaweed.
まあ、この数字から見てもらうとですね、その生産者が減って生産枚数が減っている。これはものすごくこう環境が左右してます。だから作れない海になってしまった。
So the major reasons that the number of seaweed farmers, but also the productions has decreased is the major reason is the environment, that the ocean climate has changed, that they can't cultivate a seaweed anymore.
具体的に何が起きているかをちょっと説明します。
So he's gonna explain the more details, the reason for it. So the main cause is that the color fading phenomenon and the damage by the fish, so that the fish eats a lot of seaweed and the rocky shore denudations. So that is that. So he's gonna explain what is the term for it.
っていうのはこれらすべてはですね、その海に栄養がない、それが原因で海苔の色落ち、窒素リンカリウムが必要な海苔の色落ちだったり、磯焼け、もともと日本列島の、岩場にはですね、ものすごい海藻が生い茂っている。それがすっかりなくなってしまった。まあ、それによって魚たちが本来卵を産む場所だったり、食べたりする場所がなくなってしまった。なので、食害っていうのはその海苔の葉っぱをですね、養殖している葉っぱを食べてしまう害のことです。
So he's gonna so the first two things, the color fading and the damage by fish, what is really happening in Japan right now is that, so the main reason is that, you know, we have less nutrients, a lot of microorganism, planktons is in the ocean, so that also coming from the land and the mountain. And usually, I mean, before Japan had so rich environments in terms of seagrass and the seaweed. So around the shore, the coastal line, we had the more larger dimensions of the seaweed and the seagrass. But because of the climate change and also the lack of nutrients that seaweed can grow in the natural environment, the fish, you know, they all the eggs, the fish eggs and the little the fish and the baby fish lives around the seaweed and the seagrass usually. But because they don't have that right now, the fish eats the seaweed where the fishermen cultivate. So they don't have any food to eat in the natural environment.
まあ、このように、いろいろな害があるんですけども、もう少しこう絞ってみると、やはりこの色落ちっていうのは海に栄養がなくなってしまった。なぜ海に栄養がないのか。大地からの栄養供給、山からの栄養供給っていうのはものすごくこう少なくなってしまった。
So again, the major is that we have to look at the oceans. We have to look at the mountain and the forest and really understanding what is really happening on the land, because all the nutrients, important resources is coming from the land and the forest and the mountain, and also the soils.
山からの栄養供給っていうのはもちろん目に見える川で、目に見えないところにもあるんですね。それは地下水っていう形で海に流れ出てます。
So the other sources is the underground water is also the key element for the nutrient.
なので、その陸上で水脈を断ち切ると、その地下水はですね、海に流れ出ることができないんですね。
So from the human's perspective or from the sociological perspective, if we block those interconnections and that it's chain, you know, the underground water that carries a lot of important components really doesn't go down to the oceans.
まあこのように、海っていうのはですね、やっぱりその大地からの栄養供給で豊かな海っていうのは形成されています。うん、やはり豊かな、特に日本だとですね、今、ものすごいこう整備されて、きれいな、要はクリア透明な水を海に流そうと、ものすごいこう考えられてて、で例えば雨が降って、空から雨が降ったら大地に落ちて、アスファルト、コンクリートの上を通って海にそのまま流れてる。だから雨水が無機質なまんま海に流れるんですね。
So if you want to give some of the example from, you know, when we look at Japan, how many of you guys have been to Tokyo before? Yeah, a lot. So when you look at Japan, right, the cities, all we have is a concrete and a building. So what happened is that even if it's rain, that is carrying a lot of, the essential components to the nature, the concrete and the ground itself kind of filters the organic components. So that everything is left to the ocean is an inorganic component.
でも本来自然だったらば、その山、たくさんの広葉樹が生い茂ってて、その落ち葉がたくさん積もってて、土にいる菌たちが、バクテリアがその広葉樹の葉っぱを砕いてですね、窒素リンカリウムに変えて、それが雨水を通って大腸を通って海に流れ出るわけですよね。
So in the natural environment, what is happening is that, when it's rain, it's the soils and the tree absorb the water and it's kind of decompose into the micro or microorganism, and that also takes a lot of time, but those compose process is really important, and because the soil has a power to it, we can do that. But if as a human and society step into that process, that's not gonna happen.
その流れてた、まず一番最初の栄養成分ですね、窒素リンカリウムだって、それが、植物プランクトン。
So the first the three elements that is really important is the nitrogens and potassium and also the that's kari. Let me look up that one, but yeah, continue. And then also that also brings a lot of the nutrients, and also when we talk about the seaweed cultivations, that area is they have to have a river to carry down. So that's other the thing. And also that elements is needed to create the plant plankton for it.
そうやって植物プランクトン、動物プランクトン、小さい小魚、大きい魚っていうふうに食物連鎖が始まるんですね。
So that's also, we have a different types of planktons and also the nutrients. Also, that is something that needed to create the, any living creatures.
なので、そうやってその間にですね、その海藻たちが生い茂ってて、魚が卵を産む場所を作ったり、豊かな磯場を作って海を作るっていう最初の段階なんですね。それがですね、その世界中でその藻場っていうのはどんどん消滅していってます。
Sorry, the other thing is the phosphorus, I think, right? Yeah. So that's the other elements that he was talking in addition to the potassiums and nitrogen. Okay, so he talked about the perspectives of what is really happening in Japan Sea and also Pacific Oceans. And we as a human, right, especially myself too, I live on the land. And he goes to the fishing or he goes to the ocean almost every day during throughout the year. And I think those local fishermen has a perspectives and the skills to read the change, even the little change. When we go to the ocean together, he immediately see the color of the oceans. And then he kind of guess and then tells me what kind of nutrient is in the water and what kind of ocean conditions is there. But also when we think about the background, what is how much we got rains and then what was the weather looks like in the past 3 days. But we don't have those skills to read the oceans and read the wind, read the seabird and stuff like that. And when we talk about the ocean climate, it's really broad and diverse stuff when we talk about that. And I, as a researcher too, I'm focusing on anthropology, but in the typical, even Japan too, when we think about, I'm doing a research on the marine environment, but many people think of, maybe you're the science team, or are you focusing on like oceanography, stuff like that. But I think we need more holistic and a different perspective. It's more like interdisciplinary approach. When we talk about the oceans, we need a scientist to really analyze the data in the water. And we as the researchers who focus on anthropology or sociology, I look at his, what is he really thinking, and then what kind of cultivations is he doing, and is it ethically right to do it when we think about the nature and the because we all want to protect our environments and natural environments for the next generations. So we assessing his the method and then the skills in the cultivation aquaculture in order to protect those coastal marine resources. 緊急の科学と変容のことを言った。And then, so perspective as seaweed farmer. So this is my summary of what I've been doing and research about his philosophy to the ocean and the lands. So seaweed forest. So that's one of the thing is he's always talk about. So in Japanese, it's he say moba. So moba is a seaweed forest that contains a lot of seagrass and then seaweed as well. That's also like a house of those marine environmental living creatures, as he explained earlier. And also the restorations of marine ecosystem, that's also tied to the importance of rebuilding seaweed forest. And the third is the developing understandings on blue carbon system. So that's something that we've been trying to do in other project that we have currently. So blue carbons, blue economy, blue justice, those words came up like recently, more we had of like last year. And then when we talk about the blue carbon system and the blue economy, we currently working on the small island nation in the Pacific to rebuild the blue economy, but from more community-based perspective. So it's one of the things that we need to kind of reconstruct those whole system itself, and also defining the balance between capitalism and the nature-centered view. So meaning that from what I've noticed, and from what I've noticed from his approach, is that oceans have a different roles and a meaning. Sometimes ocean provides not sometimes, but the ocean provides a food for us every day. That's a major food resources and supply. But sometimes ocean can be a different fields when when they carry refugees to other countries, or the ocean might be the field for any other conflict. But also ocean is a great the teachers and the learning resources that we as a human need to learn from their presence, and what brings and what connects with us, and also the nature. So I think that's also my research too, but how do we achieve them? So it's really diverse, and we need a holistic and different approach to it. But I wanted to ask Futoshi about the blue carbon system and the blue justice perspective. Because in Japan we have a lot of different projects for that, but the major issue right now is that are there any voice of local fishermen? Because they are the one need to cultivate, right? Because researcher really can't cultivate a seaweed or seagrass, but we need more different approach, which is more collective approach to those marine ecosystem and a marine environment project too. 今ブルーカーボンの話して量子これをもっと入れたり太さから見たブルーカーボンのあり方っていうのがあります。
僕はですね、本当にこの海苔を作るっていう一つの仕事かもしれないけど、その海苔を作るにあたって山と広大な海とそういうのを全部捉えながら一つのものを作るっていうことをやってます。
So, cultivating a seaweed, it seems or it sounds like it's just one simple term and then one process, but it requires a lot of like a knowledge and a perspective for example, as he been explained, it's the views and approach to look the ocean and the mountain, both sides.
ただし、それだけではなくて、それは漁師として、でも一人の個人の人間として、今日、昨日、飛行機にも乗ってる、携帯も使ってる、車にも乗ってる。だから環境負荷をかかることをたくさんやってます。
So, he's really care about the earth and the environment as a fisherman, and he see a different perspective from on the nature. But he himself as a one human individuals, he took a airplane, and he drove the car today. So some way, we every day we kind of cause and harm the environments, but it's just the way that the society works.
我々大人がこれから考えなきゃいけないことっていうのは何かを否定するわけではなくて、やはり今までこの社会活動の上で、ね、炭素を活用しながら、人間社会が発展していったっていう事実がありながらですね、僕らはそういう恩恵を受けながら今生きているわけで、でもそのバランスが必要だと思いますね。これからその地球環境をもっと良くするならば何かを変えなきゃいけないし、その両立、見方、バランスがとても大切だと思います。
So even when we talk about the blue carbon too, we as a humans really utilize the presence of carbon, and we can't really step away from that right now. Like we can't really step out right now, but it's really important to kind of think and take a balance between, as I said before, like capitalism, but the use of carbons and how, the power of the nature, and how do we take balance between the issue that we as a human cause, and also how do we restore the ecosystem.
で、短期的問題と長期的課題、問題っていうのもしっかり考えた上で、今生き抜くために、今生活するために、社会を経済活動を回すためには何かを作らなきゃいけない。でもそれは目の前のお金を生むことであって、例えば環境を壊すことも、お金を生む上では必要なことかもしれない。でも長期的課題っていうのは未来の人たちがどういう生活をしているか、どういう自然環境の中で生きていけるか、世界のバランスはどうなってるんだろう。食料が作れないところって大変なんじゃないのかな。そういうことをいろいろ考えるとですね、長期的課題と短期的課題を一緒にですね、それを見ながらしっかりバランスを取るのも大切だと思います。
So he mentioned two different perspectives. So one is a long-term perspective, and the other is a short-term perspective. As a society, we have to still continue to run the economy itself, meaning that we still have to use, the cars, airplane, everything that might be harm the environment and the earth. But that's just in order to keep our society. But that's kind of like relate to the short-term effect. And when we think about the long-term effect, he kind of alternate the thinking, and then he always asks himself, how can we, protect the future generations? All the activities, including environmental activities or human activity that we are consuming right now, is it really the right decisions or protect the future generations? So that is kind of, the whole perspective of the seaweed farmers on the climate change and also the marine climate, and then kind of illustrates what is really happening in Japan, but also how do we move forward together from the researcher's perspective, but adding the real voice, which is the fishermen who are working on the ground. And I want to ask him about, this is the first time he's been in Hawaii, and then, kind of impression about the nature of Hawaii. ハワイのこれまで初めて来て見た自然の感じ。
ハワイは僕初めて来たんですけども、本当にハワイ島、マウイ島、オアフ島、いろいろ行きましたけども、そのハワイ島に初めて行っていろんなところを見たんですけども、とにかく自然が思ってたよりもものすごい強い、大地のエネルギーがすごい。
So it's been a first time for him to come to Hawaii, and he was on a big island last week. And once we arrived to the big islands, he kind of immediately felt the energy from the lands, and it was more than what he was expecting.
たくさんの広葉樹、先ほども言いましたけども、たくさんの広葉樹がですね、高い山で雨雲が止まって、雨が降って、バクテリアが分解して、それがものすごい海に流れ出ている。あとはその火山のですね、マグネシウムとか、そういうのもたくさんのものがですね、すごい豊かに土壌を作っているっていうのがものすごく感じました。
So what is happening in the Big Island from his perspective is that we have, there's so many forests, really active plants, including active volcano, and there are more the hardwood plant, is in the natural environment, especially in Hawaii.
なので、その太平洋オセアニアに与える影響っていうのは実はものすごいことなんじゃないかなっていうのは感じてます。
So what he felt by visiting here in Hawaii is that the islands of Hawaii or the Hawaiian Islands, how much do they really, the power of the contributions that the Hawaii Islands contributes to the Pacific Oceans, because it's from what he saw is that carries a lot of nutrients like magnesium and everything from volcano. So it's really, the Hawaii is a really key place and a geographical element that is really needed to keep and maintain what we have in the Pacific. So that was just his perspective, and I was there with him too. And it's interesting to see that he doesn't really look the ocean first when we arrive Hilo. He immediately see the mountain and what kind of plant is there. And also he kind of see the flow of the river, where is the river, what kind of, what is the height of the, Mauna Kea, Kilauea. So it's, I think that's like one of the reason that we need to approach to more, again, the interdisciplinary research. So when we look up to, environmental studies, even my university too, back in Japan, we have, I'm in the Department of Environmental Studies, but we have a science team. We have like geography team. We have like social science team. But if we could combine that together, I think we might be able to, or we will be able to have a new perspective, new approach to what kind of actions and what kind of approach do we need to take in the certain research that we are focusing on right now. So that'll be all. And then thank you again for listening, and thank you for your time. But I'll pass on to Micah right now.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It's great to see such a nice turnout today. If you do have a question, it's the button on the right side. Do we have any questions in the room? Okay, we want questions, but I'll start. So I'm curious about this number, the number game. That was a great quiz, and I see that our participants here are really smart for answering both questions correctly. But the number that you put up there was something like 7,700 farmers that went down to 2,000 farmers. That's correct. And then that to me looks like a significant decrease in farmers. But when you look at it relative to production, production's actually increasing per farmer, right? So it's just a clarification question about whether production's getting better or whether the environment is degrading. So I'm curious about that point. And it's part of actually a larger question that I'm interested. I work as an interpreter too, so I need to go slower. Sorry.
No.
まずその人が減った理由と生産枚数が。
Can I finish the question?
Oh, okay.
Just it's related to a larger question about labor,
Yeah.
right? So we work with a lot of smallholders in Southeast Asia. And my question is that how does one become a fisherman or a seaweed farmer? And under what conditions do people either stay fishermen or fisherfolk? And what is the reasons for those decline relative to being able to continue this sort of work?
じゃあ最初の。まあ、人が減った理由、人数が減った理由、本来は日本列島すべて豊かでした。しかし、さっき言ったように海が痩せていったエリアがどんどん増えてきました。だから残ったエリアで生産枚数を少し上げてるような感じ。
So for the first question, and again, thank you for your questions. And the reason that, although the number of farmers has decreased and the production has kind of up, is that the climate change has begun from the southern part. So although we have less farmers, we still have a good areas or good marine conditions to produce and then harvest the seaweed. So that even the number, they have more skills, like a better skills to produce more. And the area is not doing great with the climate change. They can't, produce more, but the other part of the seaweed farmer, they produce more and more and more. So
Is it intensification, meaning they're producing more seaweed in the same spot, or is it extensification? They're using more area to produce seaweed.
エリアを拡張してストレートに対してもっとプロデュースできるようになった。例えばもっと環境が悪くなっているところは海苔を作れないけど、環境が良くなっているところ、まだいいところは作れる。で増えてってるってことは、一つの例えばネットに対して海苔の量が増えてるのか、海苔のエリアを拡大してるのか。
エリアを拡大してる。
So we extend the areas for the cultivations. Then for the second questions, 雇用関係。
一つずつ答える。
で海苔漁師として持ってるその雇用体系って何ですか？
雇用形態。
形態。
あと男性が年中雇用してる。
So for the labor situation in Japan, the seaweed farmers, it's usually family oriented. So he's a third generation. So his grandpa started the business, and what he runs the project. How he runs the cultivation is that he hires 4 other male workers, and then I think 4 other female workers who works for the factories. And then, sorry, can you repeat that second question again?
But I'm interested in why one becomes a farmer. So like it's passed down through generations, but also how does one stay a farmer and continue to be? What conditions allow somebody to continue to be a farmer?
So like what makes them want to work as a seaweed farmers from like generation to generations?
Yeah, but the question going into the future.
Yeah. その海苔漁師としてまだ働きたいと思う理由だったり、どうしたらもっと海苔漁師として世代をまたいでやってきたのか。
やっぱりそこってものすごいいろんな考え方と価値観があって、日本の漁師はですね、特にその家から受け継いだ家業っていう考え方があって、家の仕事を守り続ける役割みたいな感覚で育つんですね。農家も漁師も。
So there's a different perspective to what you just raised. But so in Japan, a lot of fishermen and also farmers, the agriculture portions, it's really family oriented that in some way we have nurtured the perspective and a mindset of we want to protect our like even for himself too, like he was feeling that, oh, I need to protect the family business and a family oriented to pass on to the next generation. So there's a sense of responsibility.
ただしやっぱりそのエリア環境が悪くなって取れなくなればもう生活が無理なのでどんどんやめていく。 人が増えてます。
And then what is happening is that not only the aging society or populations, because the environment has changed, that they can't cultivate a seaweed. A lot of new generations are giving up to become farmers and then fishermen.
Well, thank you for your talk. The question I have was, there was a seepage through that nuclear power plant. So how has that affected the quality of the fishery? And the fact I do like the seaweed, so was wondering that, has it affected the seaweed or should I still eat it?
From the Fukushima nuclear, yeah, okay. 福島の処理水の影響だったり、当時の影響って何か影響ありましたか？
当時の影響は数字的なものは全然こう出てない。で、生産物に関しても、もう細かく一品種ごと、魚一匹ごと、魚の種類ごとに検査をしてて、宮城ではですね、震災、何年だろう、4年くらい、5年くらいはですね、魚にやっぱり放射能っていうのは出ましたね。海苔は全然出なかったですけども、魚に関しては出る種類がありました。
So when we had the earthquake and the tsunami back in 2011, they didn't seaweed cultivation itself. They didn't have any effect from the nuclear incident. But even still now, the prefectural governments really test the level of radioactive components in the fish and the seaweed and also shellfish. So if the level is high from the standard, they can put on the market. So that's how they regulate. But for the 4 to 5 years since tsunami happened, the most the species that was impacted was the fish. So the certain species couldn't put on the market. So more the fishermen who catch the fish were impacted by this incident. And then right now it's like the number is okay for all the fish and then the seaweed and then the shelf too.
Questions?
So first, my comment is thank you very much for today's talk. I found it really interesting. You talked about the mountain to the sea, because that concept is actually very common in Hawaii agriculture with ahupua'a. So I was just curious if he's familiar with that, with Hawaiian agricultural techniques, and if he knew about ahupua'a before.
アフバのコンセプト知ってましたか？
うちらはその里っていう。
Yeah, so we actually had a slide where I put the concept of satoumi and ahupua'a. We didn't have a time to go over, but yeah, we knew about the presence of and the concept of ahupua'a, and it's really similar to
Yeah,
it.
because I only know about it from Hawaii, so I didn't know other cultures had this kind of thinking.
そう本当にこう日本人のこう考え方として本当にこう自然と密接な、文明だったので、例えばその言葉一つでも田んぼ米を作るのに、稲妻っていう言葉があるんですね。稲妻で漢字で書くと稲の妻って書くんですね。それくらい昔の人はその知識はないはずなのに、雷が落ちる場所、稲妻が落ちる場所は大地が豊かでたくさんの子がつくと。という感性で稲の妻ってつけたんですよね。そうやって自然をものすごいこう捉えながら密接に関係して生きてきた文化っていうのはあると思います。多分同じだと思います。
So there's one metaphor in Japan. It's inazuma. Inazuma, it's like a thunder, right? Thunder, and ina means rice, and then tsuma means wife. So when there's like a thunder on the rice field, meaning that there's the field is gonna be more rich, like more like children's and the other ancestors, like families. It's really similar to the family. So Japan, like history too, when we look up the Japanese like old culture, it was really associated with the nature too.
大気中の窒素を大地に叩き落とす。
So that is happening is that the nitrogen is in the air with the thunder, right? So it's kind of bring down to the rice field. So that is happening with the thunder. And then the lands need a lot of the nitrogen in order to grow rice too.
And then the other question I had was related to the labor question. But, you know, I'm kind of curious, like, what is your average day look like? Because I'm gonna guess that the decline in labor, a lot of it has to do with the same reasons why we have a decline in agricultural, people here in Hawaii is because it's hard work. It's very labor intensive. So kind of curious, like what your day looks like, and have you leveraged any like artificial intelligence to kind of help to fit or cover those labor gaps?
確かに人の作業を効率化する、オートメーション化するっていうのはすごく大事で、僕もできる限り取り入れてます。でもやっぱり現場、一次産業の現場ってどうしても人間が判断しなきゃいけないところってすごく多くて、AI に判断させてもいいし、ケミカルに作ってもいいと思うけども、やっぱりその2つが大切なことだと思いますね。テクノロジーも必要、でもアナログも必要。アナログっていうのはより環境と向き合わないとアナログっていうのは成功しないんですよね。だからその価値をしっかりとしてつけること。だから2つの食べ物があってもいいと思う。アナログとオーガニック。オーガニックとケミカル。
So,
もちろん AI と導入とか。
so in his cultivation or in his business, he does use a lot of like technology and the new, the machine that requires a lot of AI skills and technology. But there's like two sides to it. So one is that we can rely on the technology and the AI. But the other thing is that when we, especially like a first like industry like agriculture, fisheries, there's certain times that the human needs to make a decisions by reading the nature. So it's really like similar to if like do we eat the food with a chemical fertilizer or do we eat the food with organic fertilizer? So but there's like I don't think there's like a right answer to it, but it's like it's our decision that how we pursue it.
この2つを構築することが大事。
So it's really important to kind of
大規模と
understanding
小規模。
the both perspective, like a larger industry, but also small like scale too.
どっちも大切な部分って違うから。
And because we have a different like they have a different meanings and a role too. あと何をしてた一日。
朝3時間海に出て収穫して、あとは工場を回して。
何時まで？
朝まで。
So in the harvesting season, his day looks like this. So he goes to the ocean for 3 hours from like 5 a.m. He's gonna be in the ocean for 3 hours harvesting and then moving on to the factory to process the seaweed to make the flat sheet. And then if he could cultivate a good amount, he have to run the faculty until next morning. So it goes to like October, November to April. Like
交代交代。
yeah, I think his harvesting day is the 3日に1回。
それを言う。
Okay.
一日の中で朝までだから交代交代ってね。
Yeah. So, but he has to work throughout the day, like 24 hours. But he's got worker in the family too. So they have a shifting, like staff too.
Harvesting by boat, or do you wade in and harvest by hand in that way?
出てとるか。写真戻ったら気がいい。
So in the cultivation, we harvest with the machine and then by boats, but I'll just quickly show the picture. Sorry, I know it's time, but let's see.
ちょっとし
Like this. On the-
右上のやつ。
this one.
船で借りと。
So that's how they cultivate the seaweed. So the seaweed is attached to the like long net. So they pull the bolt and then it's kind of, they have like a Sharpie knife stuff. So it's kind of cut it and then they can grow again. So 何回刈り取る?
10回。
With one net, they can reharvest it 10 times in the season. Yeah, and then the last thing, sorry, that this is the picture that I had, like similar to Ahupua. So we have Satoumi and the Ahupua system. But yeah.
Can I have a question?
So we're out of time. I have to come up here because we have this placed on our website for people to continue to access. But Futoshi and Miku can address additional questions afterwards. I just want to say thanks to everybody for attending the EWC Speakers Series seminar series today. It's a regular event and it's really great to have so many people in person today. We feel like we're really recovering, and this is one of those in-person events, but will be available to folks that access the website afterwards. So please do let others know, those who missed it and could not attend. Our next event is going to be on May 14th. This is part of an EWC alumni panel, so we're focusing on issues of environmental solutions and good governance for the 64th birthday of the East-West Center. And we'll have a great panel set up for that, engaging with different chapters from around the world. So please, for those that get the notification through the EWC info, we hope you continue to attend. And we really appreciate you attending today. Once again, thank you to Futoshi and Miku. I also want to say that, there's a lot of brain power in being a presenter and an interpreter at the same time. So acknowledge Miku's abilities to be able to do that in real time. But thanks so much. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.